Alrighty. So today we're going to be talking about assignment, right? More specifically, we're going to be talking about covered call assignment. What happens, right, if the stock shoots up to the moon and you have your covered call is now in the money and now you're in danger of getting your shares called away. So you see, I even have a picture of a moon to show you how high the stock can possibly go, right? So the question is, how can you avoid early assignment? When are you really in danger of getting assigned, and what do you do if you are already assigned, right? So today we're going to be talking all about this, and if you have been selling covered calls or you want to sell covered calls, then this is a very important topic for you to understand. Right, so first of all, you want to understand when are you actually in danger of early assignment, right? So you're in danger of early assignment. Well, first of all, when the cover call is in the money, right? So the only time where you can get assigned is if your cover call is in the money. If it's out of the money, you don't have to worry about anything, right? The next thing is when the extrinsic value is very little. Right, and I'll explain a little bit more later with a graph and explanation, right, so you get to understand a little bit better. But for now, just understand that if you see that your cover call has very little extrinsic value, then there is a chance that you get assigned, but it's not guaranteed. Okay, also there's when there's very little days to expiration, right, that's the most likely the chance where when the option buyer, the call buyer, does not have that many days left to expiration. That's when they would consider actually exercising their option. And then also when there's X dividend coming up, where the dividend being paid out is more than the extrinsic value, then there is a much greater chance that your cover call would get assigned. So this is what you call dividend risk. Now, while all these are signs, right, that you could get early assigned, one thing you need to understand is that the risk of actually getting assigned is not as high as you think, right? It doesn't mean that the moment that your cover call is in the money that you're going to get your shares caught away or that the option is going to get exercised. It doesn't happen as often as you think. So a lot of people, they get their cover call in the money. For example, they sold a cover call here, the stock is trading here. Then the moment when the stock shoots above this, they get panic, right? They panic, and what they do is they quickly cover their cover calls, right? They buy back their cover calls for a loss, and then only for the stock to plunge back down. So there's really no need for you to panic if your cover call is in the money, because assignment is not as often as you would think. So I'm going to give you an example here. So to really understand whether your cover call is going to be assigned, what we need to do is to put yourself in the mindset of the call buyer, right? So when you're in the mindset of the person who actually buys the call, then you would understand whether your cover call is going to be assigned or not, right? So let's say, for example, we are going to sell a cover call at this place at 135, right? Let's say we can sell it for $1.50. So this is if we are selling the cover call. Now let's flip turn the tables around. Let's flip it around, and now let's see it from the call buyer's perspective. All right. So now we are no longer the person that sold the cover call, but right now we are the person who bought this call option. Right. So we have now paid $1.50 for an out the money call option. Right. So the price is here. We bought this in hopes that the stock price will just shoot up, and then we will make a lot of money on the call option, right? So here are a few scenarios. So now, scenario number one is if the stock goes to $140, right? You can see this is now in the money. The cover call is in the money. That means our call option, which we bought, is now in the money, and it's now going for $6, right? So of this $6, we need to understand what's the value, what does it consist of. So in the money options always have intrinsic value and extrinsic value, right? Intrinsic value, as I've mentioned in many of my previous videos, is just the difference between the current strike price or the stock price minus off the strike price. So the current stock price is 140, you minus off your strike price at 135, that gives us $5 in intrinsic value, right? And because the option is $6, right, so there is a dollar in extrinsic value. All right, so this makes your call option total $6, right? So you bought it for $1.50, it's now worth $6. Question: would you exercise your call option? So think about it, right? What's going to happen if you exercise your call option? If you exercise your call option, it means right now you would be buying $135 the shares, 100 shares at $135, right? Because the call options, you have the right to buy the underlying stock at your strike price, right? So by exercising your option, you're basically saying that I want to buy the shares at 135 when it's now worth $140, right? So it sounds like you get a profit, right? It's good because you exercise it and you buy at $135. Now the stock price is 140. You could sell it immediately for a profit. But the problem is this: if you were to exercise this, you get it 135 and you sell it immediately in the market for $140. Your profit is only $5, right? This is the only profit that you get. You get $5. So if you're only going to get $5, why would you want to do that? Because you have given up this extrinsic value. Because if you had just sold this option by itself, you would have gotten an additional dollar in extrinsic value. So that is an additional $100. But when you exercise it, you have totally forgoed your extrinsic value. You have forfeited this extrinsic value. So would it make sense for you to even exercise your call option? It doesn't make sense, right? Why would I exercise my call option when I can just sell away my call option and then get $6, right? If I were to exercise, I only get $5. So it doesn't make sense, you see? So if you are the covered call seller and you see that it's in the money and you notice there's still $1 in extrinsic value, then there is no incentive for the buyer, the person who is holding your option, this covered call, to go ahead and exercise, because they'll be losing out on this $1. Alright, so this is the important thing you need to understand. Now let's take a look at the next scenario. So the next scenario is that what if the stock goes to $150, right? So now it really has shot up. Now it is in the money, pretty deep in the money. And if you were to take a look at the value, the call option is now $15.25, right? So of it, $15 is intrinsic value and you have 25 cents in extrinsic value. Right, so per option that is $25. Each option has 100 shares. So the question again is, would you exercise your call option? So again, if you exercise your call option, what you're going to do is basically you're going to buy 135. If you're going to sell off at the market immediately, you'll only be making this $15. So again, you'll be foregoing this $25 in extrinsic value. Would you want to do that? Well, some people may say, they want to do that because they want to hold on to the stock in case the stock will go further, right? If that's the case, what you could have done is you could have just sold off this call option for this additional $25, which is 25 cents, right? And then just buy the stock again. Buy the stock outright at 150. This case, you still capture this $25. So there is actually no need for you to exercise your call option whatsoever, right? So all you have to do, you can just sell off your call, right, to make the profit. So as you can see, even though, let's say now you are the seller of this cover call, right, the cover call is now really deep in the money, there's 25 cents left, you will notice that there is actually no incentive for the buyer of the option to actually exercise their option, because they're going to lose out on this 25 cents. And if they lose out on this 25 cents as the option seller, you actually gain this 25 cents. You see, so that is why there is not as high of a chance of an assignment as you would think, right? So there's no real need for you to panic, even though if your option goes deep in the money, right? And there's still some time left before expiration. So now what about the third scenario? So now this scenario is the same where the stock goes to $140, but the difference right now is that the stock is going to be paying a dividend of 50 cents tomorrow. Right, so tomorrow you'll be receiving 50 cents in dividend if you are the stockholder. So right now, let's take a look. So now you are the option buyer, the call option buyer. Again, now your option is worth $6. You have $5 in intrinsic value and you have $1 in extrinsic value. Question, are you going to exercise your call option now? So here's what's going to happen if you're going to exercise. If you're going to exercise, let's say you exercise, you're going to buy $135. All right, 100 shares at $135. You forego your $1 in extrinsic value. You forfeit it so that you can get this 50 cents in dividend, right? So now you're going to be long $135. Tomorrow you're going to receive 50 cents. So what you have essentially done, right, by exercising your call option as the call option buyer, is to give up on $1 just to get 50 cents. Does that make sense to you? Obviously it doesn't make sense, right? You're going to be losing out on 50 cents. So if in this case, what would be a better option, right? What would be a better choice would be to just sell off this option for $6, right? Because if you're going to hold on this option, you know that tomorrow they're going to pay a dividend, then your intrinsic value is going to drop by 50 cents, right? Your extrinsic value may not necessarily catch up by 50 cents. So you're going to be worse off if you hold on to this option tomorrow. So rather than doing that, you could just sell off this option today and you get this $6, right? If you were to just exercise it, you're going to forego $1 just to get this 50 cents. It doesn't make sense. So that is why you see there's no incentive for the call option buyer to go and exercise the option, which means if you sold your covered call and you know that you still have $1 is the extrinsic value, you know that there's a dividend that's paying 50 cents tomorrow, there's no real panic, right? Because there's no incentive for the call buyer to actually exercise the option. So that means the chances of you getting assigned is pretty low, right? Now, what about this scenario? The next scenario is that the stock now goes to $150, right? And they're also going to pay a dividend of 50 cents. But right now you notice there's a slight difference because your intrinsic value is $15, but your extrinsic value is only 25 cents. It's only 25 cents. Now, if you are the call option buyer, would you exercise your call option? So let's think about this. If you're going to exercise your call option, you're going to be long 100 shares at $135. You're going to give up this 25 cents, and then tomorrow you're going to receive this 50 cents. So does it make sense for you to exercise? Yes, it makes sense for you to exercise because if you were to exercise and get shares, you will be receiving 25 cents more than what you would get if you just sold off the option, right? Because if you sold off the option, you only get to realize 25 cents in extrinsic value. But if you were to exercise the call option, you will get an additional 25 cents, which is $25, and you get to hold on to the you get to long the shares at 135, right? So this is the only time when it makes sense for the call option buyer to exercise their option. So in this case, if you are the covered call seller, you sold the covered call at this, then you know at this point in time that there's a good chance for you to get assigned. So what do? You obviously do not hold on to this covered call and then pray it doesn't get assigned, right? You can always do something about it, right? And the thing you can always do is to just roll the option out so you get more time so that this extrinsic value get beefed up, right? This extrinsic value get increased so that it's more than this dividend, right? So imagine this, if you roll the cover call right now, and let's say you roll it to the same strike price, right? Just example, you roll the same strike price, but now your extrinsic value has increased to $1, and there's still like 45 days to expiration. Now, as the call option buyer, would you now exercise that 45 days option to give up $1 just to get 50 cents? It doesn't make sense, right? Again, it doesn't make sense. It's very similar to basically this scenario down here. So as you can see, the risk of you actually getting assigned is not as high as you think. Now, with that said, how do you avoid early assignment, right? There's always a chance to get assignment, and if you do not want to face all this troubles, or rather dilemma of whether you should be closing it, rolling it, or what, well, there are a few ways to avoid early assignment. But the first thing obviously is not to sell cover calls, right? If you're worried that the stock is going to shoot up to the moon, then of course there's no point for you to sell the cover call. You're only going to be limiting yourself and giving yourself more stress of not wanting your shares to get caught away, right? So don't sell cover call. That's the first thing. Number two is to watch my covered call selection, strike selection blueprint, which I've created on it, where I share with you how to, choose the strikes which have very low chance of getting assigned, right? So basically, you do not want to just sell cover call every time. You only want to choose the times when the market, right, it's really overbought, and that's when you can go ahead and sell the cover call, right? So go ahead and watch this video if you haven't watched it yet. I'll put a link somewhere at the top right corner of this video. Next is to not let your cover call get in the money, right? So that means the moment the stock price reaches your cover call strike price, let's say you saw a cover call down here, and the moment the stock goes up to this point, then you roll your cover call, right? You roll out and up your cover call. So This way, your covered call will still be out of the money. And if the stock continues to go up, then you just keep rolling and rolling, right? So this is a very defensive move. If you're really afraid of getting your shares caught away, you're really afraid of your covered call getting in the money, then you should just do that. Just roll. Again, I've created a video on how to roll your covered call. Just go ahead to my channel and find that video. Next thing is that if your cover call is already in the money, right? So let's say, for example, this is the cover call, and right now the stock is down here. What do? Right? Ensure that there's always 21 days in expiration, right? There's 21 DTE left in your cover call, because when there's usually 21 DTEs or more, the extrinsic value is still there, right? Unless it's really deep in the money, right? But for the most part, if there's 21 days and above, there should be some extrinsic value, right? So it should be roughly this example down here, where you still have 25 cents left, and there's no incentive for the call option buyer to exercise at this point, right? So just roll it to ensure that there's more than 21 days to expiration. Then you will have a lesser chance of it getting assigned. The next thing is to avoid dividend paying stocks, right? If you're worried that you're going to have dividend risk, is where the dividend is going to be more than the extrinsic value, then of course avoid dividend paying stocks, right? You can choose a lot of those growth stocks, tech stocks. They pay a very little dividends, so this way you do not have a big risk of this dividend risk. All right, now what if you already got assigned, right? So what if your shares have already been called away? So what do? Right, so there are three options. So the first option is that you can simply just buy back the stock, right? If you didn't want the stock to be called away in the first place, right, chances are that you think that the stock is just going to keep going up. So there's nothing wrong with just buying back the stock again if you think that the stock will really go up in the long run, right? So for example, you saw the cover call here, and the stock goes up somewhere down here, right? And at this point, you got called away. Your shares are being called away here at this point down here. So what do? At this point, you just go ahead and buy the 100 shares down here. Okay, so all you're doing is you pretty much just lost out on this portion down here, and then of course you have the premium to cover a little bit of this move up here, and then you just go ahead and buy the 100 shares, because if you think it's going to keep going up, you want to hold on to the shares for the long term, well, you need to have a view that it's going to go much further than where it is right now, right? So there's definitely nothing wrong for it to continue, to buy it, right? So if you don't feel comfortable to buy it back immediately, right, at this price, of course you could just wait for a retracement, right? You could wait for the price to retrace back, then possibly you could get it back at the price which you got your shares caught away in the first place, right? So there's always an option for you to buy it back on a pullback, right? The stock, right, you must understand that stocks or the market never goes up in a straight line, right? You never see a stock that just goes pretty much up this way, a vertical climb with no pullback, right? If you find this stock, please contact me. I'll definitely buy this stock as well. But no, stock always moves in waves, right? It goes up, it goes down. So all you have to do is wait until there's this pullback, right? Buy it at this point, buy it at this point, right? Just wait for a pullback to enter into the stock again. Next, what you could do is to sell a cash secured put the moment, right, your shares are called away, and you sell it at the strike price. All right, so let me just remove all these drawings just to make it neater. So again, here is the covered call. All right, we saw the covered call down here, and let's say the stock goes up, right, and then at this point you got assigned, right, so your shares got called away here, so you no longer have this covered call. So the moment your shares are called away here and the stock price is here, what you do is you sell a cash secured put at this same strike price where you first sold your covered call, right? So you sell this cash secured put, you'll be able to get premium, right? So if the stock comes back down, right, not only do you get a premium, you also get long the shares at the price which you got called away, right? If it doesn't come down, right, let's say the price doesn't come down to this point, it comes back here, what you could do is sell the cash secured put again, right? Once it expires, you can sell the cash secured put again and get a premium, and you can keep doing this until you eventually get filled, right? If it doesn't get filled, it goes up, at least you still get the premium for selling the cash secured put. Now, the third way is to simply just find other trades, right? It's not like there are one type of a stock there is in the market, right? There's more than one stock that is going up, right? So if this stock goes up, right, and then you get called away from your cover call, you can always put your money into some other trades, right? Some other stock where you see that there's a retracement, right? So if there's a retracement in the other stock and you think it's a fundamentally good stock, you can always enter into that trade. Alright guys, so I hope you found this video useful. If you found it helpful, please do click the thumbs up and also please subscribe for more videos like this. And as always, I appreciate your time and may the options favor you.